It's so inspiring to see so many people here for our first ever State of the Arts event for ABBA and the amazing, wonderful organizations that brought this together. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. My name is Joan Madonna. I am the director of ArtSpan, and thank you. And really, I'm also on the team of stewards for ABBA, and Susie's going to tell you a little bit more about ABBA. But I basically just want to give you context for why we're here, why you're here, why we're all here. Art matters. Art is an important part of all of our lives. It's been a part of humanity as long as we've been humans. And we need to know, what do we need to do? What do you need us to know? What do you want us to know? It's really important that we believe ourselves, from the individual artists to the biggest institutions, that we are one mass of really important people doing really important things. And so we need to come together to make sure that we can do that, know where it stands, what can we do this year, what can we do next year. So this is the State of the Arts, our first ever. I hope you're here for the 1st, the 2nd, the 10th, and the 20th. So welcome to everybody. Big, huge thank you to all the speakers that are here, the breakout sessions. We're going to do some housekeeping for you. But I'm blown away by the turnout. Tell everybody how amazing it was and bring them back next year. Most importantly, please be involved, care, bring others, because there's a lot to do all year long. So thank you so much, and let's begin the first ever State of the Arts event.
Thanks, Joan. My name's Susie McKinnon, and I'm with Arts for a Better Bay Area. And if you don't know about Arts for a Better Bay Area, also known as ABBA, we are a growing network and coalition of artists, art supporters, and advocates with a goal of increasing access and goodwill towards arts and culture, and also increasing equitable investments in arts and culture. So we ask you to become a member of ABBA, join our mailing list, follow us on any of our social media handles, and we'd love to hear from you and be connected. So a few housekeeping details here. We've got a number of exits just in case of any emergencies. There's one right behind us to the left. There's 2 exits, same entrance as you came in through the gallery, and another exit in the hallway here to the right. If you need the bathrooms, you just exit right here from the room, and they're directly to your left, and they're gender neutral bathrooms. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'd like to introduce Jason Bayani of the Kearney Street Workshop.
Hello. They asked if I could come up here and do a poem, something inspiring as a piece about grief and dying. So let's try that on. How little there is to know of the body, that we would emerge from the waters never complete new. There inside is a facsimile of older griefs. They say the body inherits memory. Maybe it's just the newer pain learning to understand us through us. Trauma is a wire through the generations. We're not alone in this. I repeat, then inhale each new flush of air, mapping out the parts of me that remain hidden. We are not alone in this. I have to tell myself that this too is a practice in faith. The day that the coroner will hold my heart in their hand, what will we call it? A collapsed engine, out of commission parts. What happens to the great well of ideas, the imagination? Every bit of touch that ignites, still, where does this all go? I want to believe that joy is inherited too. When they want us to have this as well. Doesn't everyone you love deserve the entirety of you? One day I'll be gone from here, and one day you will too. I grieve for you already, but I believe grief is an honest gift. It's how you learn to hold the whole of a person. So much of loss counted inside of the absences. There's nothing missing when it comes to any of you. It is your fullness that overwhelms me. The rich and varied life of a person, all of its requisite pleasure and madnesses. Maybe there's a way to learn how to live with this. Maybe we'll find the place that understands how to love us and our pain in equal measures. In there is a greater joy. I have to believe it is one equal to the weight of our living. Next up, I'd like to welcome Megan Mitchell. Megan Mitchell, take it up.
I was actually hoping you'd do that at home so I could hide in the corner for the quote. Because I get nervous talking to people, but it's okay. My name is Megan Mitchell. I am a Bayview native, and I am a board member of Imprint City. How many people here know about Imprint City? Woo! That's a lot of hands. We need more of those hands, though. Thank you. You should put up both your hands. Imprint City has been around for about 3 years, and it was built on a lot of passion, and really our founder, Tyra Fennell, just stepping out on faith, which is what a lot of us do sometimes when we want to do our own thing, right? We step out on faith and we say, I'm going to do my next big thing, and I'm going to make it amazing, and I'm going to figure out where I get the money from, I'm going to figure everything out, but I'm going to do it. And Tyra did it. She's not here, but she did it. Can we just really quick? First slide. This is a really, really passionate mural right here. First of all, this mural is one of many murals that take over Egbert Avenue in the Bayview District. Pretty much, I'd say the whole span from 3rd Street down to, I want to say Galvin's, I'm not sure. Jennings. From 3rd to Jennings, there's a whole bunch of murals that are all very connected to the Bayview District, to Hunters Point, and really talk about, you know, the neighborhood and what people hope to see there. It's meant to be inspirational, but really it's beautiful. This mural right here, done by a Korean artist who flew all the way from Korea just to come to Bayview and paint this for us, Royal Dog. It's called You Will Be Loved. And you can see it's an African-American young woman, or young girl actually, in Korean garb. You will be loved. This mural really speaks to me, coming from Bayview, where I've been here pretty much most of my life, up until about college, until I came back. But I can tell you my childhood in Bayview has not been the easiest. Growing up with a lot of your friends being murdered, a lot of people just disappearing, people going to jail, all kinds of things happening, I never really felt like there was hope in Bayview. I never really felt like there was a place I could go where I could connect with my community. And I darn sure didn't think there would be like the Midway, or, you know, the Grotto Wines, or Seven Stills, or Laughing Monk. I didn't think there would be anything like that. If you would have told me that was happening, I would have just been like, yeah, right, man. I mean, that's how hopeless it was in my community. But art's the healer. All these murals that are up and down this block, and I'm getting kind of teary-eyed because I'm so thankful. Art's the healer. Art tells the story. Art's the unifier. Art is what makes my Bayview community feel better. It's what makes it shine. Yeah, it's the sunniest neighborhood in San Francisco, but without art, I honestly don't know if I would still even want to be in this neighborhood. It has done so many things for the Bayview. It's inspired new businesses to open. It's inspired people who normally wouldn't talk to come and tell their stories. It's inspired youth to become artists. It's given other artists opportunities. We are so thankful for what art does in the District 10, in the Bayview, in San Francisco. We're so thankful. I kind of went off there, but I just had to express that. This man right here, Malik Sinafru, I wish he were here. I don't see him around, but he's amazing. Before any of this stuff, even before in Print City, he was out there just painting on like garbage cans and other stuff, and I even hosted a couple of art walks where I'd have him come and paint live. This guy's amazing. If you ever go to Radio Africa on 3rd Street, there's like a little garbage can that has like a really funky painting on it. That's Malik Sinafru. And once you see his type of art, you will be able to figure out it's him. He has like that very distinct style. Like, it's a lot of like mask and big eyes and stuff. Okay, skip. Ooh, and Print City did a festival. We did a huge festival on Egbert Avenue. I think what Tyra eventually wants to do is we want to kind of create a festival that's like on the same scale as Outside Lands, but do it on the southeast part of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
So this one was called Baby Live, and it featured Jidenna. Jidenna's from Nigeria, but he's actually a really popular rapper, and he's been like on a lot of TV shows, and he loves to dress up, and he's just like a really, really pretty dude. So, yeah, festivals, Baby Live. Last year we had Talib Kweli, who, I don't know if many of you heard of him, another great rap artist. And we don't just do rap, we do other types of music, but Talib Kweli, I don't know, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Skip. Okay, so Baby Spark. This is like, again, we're trying to do these large-scale festivals that kind of we can take it on as our own, but we're inspired by other large festivals. Sorry, girl, I know she's really trying to hear. Anyway, so this one's kind of like Burning Man. It's called Baby Spark. And it's a really wonderful festival. We do it every year. It's just the burners come out and they hang out and we have a good time. Baby Spark. Oh, more Baby Spark. And, whoop, go back. Oh, okay, this one, I'm not sure I was at that one, but it looks like it was just a really fun event that was taking place. Yeah! And skip it. Okay. Oh, and this is what the whole, little mural situation looks like that I was just talking about on Egbert Avenue. We call it Spray View. So all these artists are like graffiti artists, some of them are muralists, and they just, on this side of the street, also on the other side of the street, the whole span, it's just full of inspirational murals. So we hope to make this part of the destination area that we want for Bayview to be, and we hope that people will come and they'll take photos and they'll just take note that before they were here, there was a whole lot of healing that we had to do, a whole lot, and we're still healing, a lot of us. But we're so thankful for art. Art is the healer. Art is the unifier, and it's really what makes our neighborhood. And with that, I'd like to welcome the co-founder of Arts for a Better Bay Area, Lex Leifa, and I'm so sorry for mispronouncing that.
Wow. So my name's Lex Leifa, and along with Ebony McKinney, I'm a co-founder of Arts for a Better Bay Area. And I just want to say thank you to Susie and Kevin and Alex and Ernesto and Kelsey and Christina and the Midway and everyone who put together this incredible event. I don't know if we've already given them a round of applause. Susie asked me to say a few words about the early days of ABBA, and some of you have heard this a few times, so I was trying to look back and think about, well, what could I say that might be new to everyone? In the summer of 2014, I was executive director of SOMARTS, and SOMARTS is cold even in the summer, so I'm pretty sure I was sitting at my desk with my fingerless gloves on, and we were all kind of following the arts budget. And what was going to happen? Was the city going to fund the arts this year? Were they going to increase it? The economy was growing, but we just weren't sure. And the stakes were really high because the city had found this legal exposure, and behind closed doors, they had separated the hotel tax from arts funding, and it felt like the bottom had just dropped out, and everything was uncertain for all of us, and we all had to be on our toes at every moment. We just didn't know what would happen. And what happened that year was things got really divisive, and you were watching good but imperfect people who had fought for the arts and fought for cultural equity and fought for cultural affirmation, kind of call each other out, which is, of course, a really effective tactic of activists to shame people, but also to hold them accountable for harmful behavior. And Ebony and I started talking about this and thinking about what could be done, because as we were divided, we weren't going to make the progress we needed. We really needed to be more united in the arts community. And we started to talk about and think about what a calling in would look like. Does anyone here read the blog Black Girl Dangerous? Has anyone seen that before? So I had maybe heard the term calling in, but I really read about it and learned a little bit more about it on Black Girl Dangerous, which is a great resource. And it was talking about, calling in, bringing people together, having patience, having compassion with each other, and trying to unite and work together for goals. So we had this idea called a cram jam, and the idea behind it honestly looked somewhat like this event. It was an idea that we could have a big place with a lot of dense information where people who wanted to learn about the ways that art connects with public safety and economic development and job training and 21st century careers could come together and better understand all the resources that artists and arts organizations could have if they opened up that lens. We started talking about that with folks like Adam Fong and Ernesto, and as we expanded the conversation, people said, yeah, that's good, but we're really feeling displacement right now. We really feel urgency just around dollars. And so because community development happens when you listen to the community, we sort of pivoted and started the Arts Budget Coalition. The Arts Budget Coalition was the first project of ABBA. This event today really feels like we're coming full circle. It feels like the kind of seeds that were planted in the early days of ABBA are finally, 4 years later, really coming to fruition, so thank you. I wish Ebony were here to see it. And I am so excited that we get to hear about all the other work that's happening. ABBA's really it's a network, so all the other work that's happening is also incredibly important. What Megan was talking about with Imprint City, what Honey Mahogany is going to talk about with the nation's first transgender cultural district, the work of the Arts Commission and Meta to build pathways to affordable artist housing, and Roberta Bedoya's work on a cultural plan for Oakland. It's worth knowing about, and what we're doing here in the Bay Area is tremendous. It's inspiring cities, large and small, everywhere. Changing the subject for a moment, some of you might have heard that I'm running for school board. I never in a million years when I was starting ABBA ever thought I would be running for office. But as a parent who has kids young enough that my son still holds my hand when we walk into his public school, I see some of the challenges facing education in our city, and there's a lot of parallels with how our arts community has been divided. If you looked at 3 kids, together, and you thought about our education system here, 2 of those kids would go to public school, and 1 in 3 opts out and goes to private school, charter school, parochial school. That one on the side is more likely to be surrounded by wealthy people, whiter people, and all those resources, their family, their networks, their money is going to facilities, is going to opportunities that are outside of our public schools. And the people who lead our public schools have so many great ideas, but I just don't feel like they're looking big enough. Like they're really trying to unite us and get those opportunities back to education, to connect education and equity the way we can. But I also don't think that we can fear and shame people into coming back to the system, and we can't ignore them either. We cannot have a two-tier education system. So I'm running for office, and as a newcomer to the schools, relatively new, there's no way I'm gonna win without the help of the arts community. And it wouldn't be that hard for you to help the campaign. I think some of you, I hope some of you, will be out canvassing and knocking on doors and building public will for the arts in this ballot initiative that I hear is coming up. So if you do have a minute today to go to votelex.org and just sign up for information, that would be incredible and very much appreciated. I really think in our schools, it's about a lot more than the arts, but we need leaders who listen and who understand the value of arts to bring our community together and also to build path to 21st century careers and opportunities. Speaking of 21st century leaders, I have the great honor of introducing our Director of Cultural Affairs, Tom DeCaney. Tom and I worked together on the Nonprofit Sustainability Initiative, and it has been just, in my role at City Hall, getting to see Tom work is a joy. I was saying to him before I came up here that he's always like 3 steps ahead and 5 levels deep on every opportunity, and I never am in a room with him where he's not securing something for the arts and thinking ahead. And he really is a champion for the arts, so please give him a warm welcome.
So much, Lex. It's so great to see so many people here tonight. And I have to say, in my 6 and almost a half years as Director of Cultural Affairs, it's been so incredible to watch the grit of the arts community in the entire Bay Area take action, respond, organize. I know tonight's, I believe, theme is collective impact. But to watch where we have come as an arts community and communities, plural, is incredible. People are looking to us around the country as to how this happens. And it happens because people run for office, because they choose to organize, and it's just incredible tonight. So thank you all to helping put this together and bringing us together to share information and to continue the mobilization to make sure that arts and culture remain a critical part of who we are in the Bay Area. I'm going to share, I don't know how to best trigger slides, so who am I cueing to here? Oh, back there, great, thank you. I'm going to do like a point up when it's time. So the Arts Commission is on a number of fronts working around issues of affordability. It is our greatest challenge, and we're trying to do that in partnership with all of our great partners at City Hall. So I'm just going to try to give an overview of some of that work. I'm happy to answer questions afterwards as well. And so many of you here are a part of this in so many ways. So I know for some of you, you're very familiar with this work. But next, I wanted to talk about our work at helping secure affordable housing pathways for artists and cultural workers. We are currently in the process of helping develop an artist and cultural worker preference for housing. Some of you may be aware that the city has defined a preference for teachers. We need to do some data gathering to show that the population of artists and cultural workers in San Francisco mirrors the population of people who income qualify for affordable housing. So that is a requirement for any affordable housing developments that are not federally funded. Artists are the only professional protected class in federal law for HUD-funded projects. Given the demand for affordable housing in San Francisco, our HUD dollars are committed, and they are committed years out. So what we're trying to do is define an artist preference that'll make sure that inclusionary housing can actually include units specific for artists and cultural workers. Yes. I am thrilled to say we have had over 1,700 people respond to the survey. which is amazing, but we are in the process of translating and going to launch the survey in Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino so that we can ensure that we're reaching every community. And that survey will be open, the census survey will be open through June of this year, and then we will analyze the data and work with our colleagues at the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to enact that preference. Simultaneously, we are looking at city-owned sites that can be dedicated for affordable artist housing units, and we are engaging private developers in the affordable housing, the nonprofit affordable housing space, to also encourage them to do inclusionary units dedicated to artists and cultural workers. And I'm thrilled to say we have some really great allies in this work. Developers like Joyo at Group I and Eric Tao, people who are really wanting to do this work and are waiting for us to help demonstrate this preference. So I'm very excited. It's been a long time coming. I've learned way more about affordable housing policy than I ever imagined. But please, if you haven't, take the survey. Tell your colleagues, friends, comrades to take the survey. You don't have to be based in San Francisco. We are making sure we are supporting people who've been forced out of the city, so we want to get a very broad base of the data. And I also want to clarify that the last survey we did on displacement, there's been some, I think, misinformation that said 70% of artists had left the Bay Area. 70% of the respondents to the last survey did indicate that they were being pressured on issues of displacement from home or work, but that was a survey targeted at displaced communities so we could better understand their needs and how we could respond to them for the Nonprofit Displacement Mitigation Fund. So I don't know how many artists have left. We wish we did have a baseline, but we're hoping the census helps us establish a real broad baseline. It's a much larger sample. We've already got 1,700 respondents versus 600 last time. So we're already 1,100 people more in responding. So we hope to reach even more people in this round. So next, here we are for, in the meantime, because you're like, what the hell are we doing in the meantime? Because those units are going to take a while to build when we get a preference. So we are so thrilled to be in partnership with Mission Economic Development Agency, otherwise known as MEDA. We have a grant with funding from our budget and from the National Endowment for the Arts to help individuals who income qualify, artists and cultural workers, to actually get their paperwork in order to qualify into the lottery for affordable housing opportunities. San Francisco has more affordable housing units coming online than any time in our history. We want to make sure that artists and cultural workers are getting into that pipeline. If you income qualify, and many people in this room do because the area median income is so high in the Bay Area, we want you to get into the pipeline. We want you to submit your qualifications, and it is cumbersome, it is draconian, and it is bureaucratic. But communities like Chinatown, the LGBTQ community, have found pathways to do this with organizations like MEDA. This is an expertise that they bring. They're doing a great job. Just for the next slide, we have, I think, a couple of the next workshops coming up at Startup Fair. And again, it's a program citywide, and it also can service you if you've been evicted or displaced from San Francisco in the last 2 years. So you can self-identify as an artist, you can work for a nonprofit arts and culture organization, and please take advantage of this program. It takes numerous times to get into the lottery. You do have to keep trying, but we want to make sure artists and cultural workers are being represented. Do we have anybody from MEDA here tonight? I don't know if anybody can make it.
So we have workshops at 5:45 on Wednesdays, that week today, for people to come to a workshop or walk in 1 to 4 p.m. on Wednesdays also, people to come in and share what their housing needs are.
Awesome. And could you tell everybody your name so people know?
Fang from Mission Economic Development Agency, and I'll be having a small breakout session later on to talk a little bit more about this and other strategies that we have in housing.
Great, thank you so much. And it doesn't mean you have to dig into your finances. None of us like to do that work, but really there are some incredible opportunities in the city's lottery systems for below market rate housing. And so please do get in this pipeline. We have to make sure we're accessing those available units now. They're not artist specific, but if you income qualify, you can access that as a resource. Please take advantage of that. This whole thing is based on a program that was run by the LGBT Community Center for the queer community. So also thank you to the LGBT Community Center and our Commissioner Roberto Orellana for this incredible guidance in helping us replicate this for artists. So next onto legislation. Thanks to the people in this room, we have garnered a number of efforts on the legislative front to restore the hotel tax nexus to arts and culture, which was taken away in closed session in 2013. You can't read it here, but Supervisors Tang and Peskin, Aaron Peskin and Katie Tang, have co-introduced a measure based on the advocacy of the Prop S ballot in 2016, which just lost by like a little bit, and it needed a 2/3 vote, and it just fell short of a 2/3 majority. So Supervisors Tang and Peskin have stepped up and have introduced some draft legislation that would go before voters in November of 2018, this November. It would restore baseline funding for the Cultural Equity Endowment, cultural centers, for grants for the arts, as well as a new bucket of money, a total new bucket of money of $6.6 million at a baseline to fund cultural districts, which you're going to hear a little bit about tonight. There is a group of community organizers that helped lead the ballot effort. We're looking at making sure there's a dedicated at least minimum $3 million for cultural districts. I'm going to talk a little bit more about cultural districts in a second. But the idea would be to bring this to the board this spring, get board majority to put this on the ballot through a City Hall supported effort. You didn't see me around in 2016 because I didn't have permission. I can't ever, in my job, get involved in an election. But there was not support at City Hall because the numbers on that were too significant for people to get behind. This has what I believe to be universal support from our current board and a number of the candidates for mayor. It has incredible support, so thank you to everybody who brought this forward and has worked with Supervisors Tang and Peskin. This is incredible. And it also means that as the hotel tax fund grows, the funding for the arts will grow. That used to be the case, and it is no longer. So you have no security, we have no security in arts and culture funding. So we are subject to the whims of the general fund and any recession coming. This would restore our nexus to hotel tax revenues. For those that don't know, that's the fee that visitors to the city pay on their hotel room when they stay. So this is good stuff. Stay tuned, and I hope Abba, I know Abba, will be watching and informing you all how to get involved as that moves forward. Next, as we deal with the real estate crisis in the city, we are thrilled to have funding from a number of sources, including the Arts Commission, the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, National Endowment for the Arts, Grants for the Arts, as well as another source that I'm forgetting, to support the Community Arts Stabilization Trust and a new resource tool, which would be an asset map that will actually show us physically where the spaces are. And I've got a whole bunch of these snapshots. It's being designed by Stamen Design, which is a really well-regarded design firm. And the idea is that it helps us illuminate and show where we have arts resources and where we don't, and where we need them. So the idea is to help map our physical assets and resources so policymakers at City Hall can make sure that they're aware of what we have and where we don't have resources and how we might better allocate new resources in the real estate space. So I'm going to just show, this slide here is of art spaces. It's a sample of 509 Cultural Center, so you can click on a space, pop up who's there, get a sense of what organizations are based at that site, get a real physical sense of the lay of the land in the city. And then next we have, I'm just going to run through these slides. Next we have a transit overlay. For those of us that work with the planning department and many representative leaders and policymakers at City Hall, they tie things to transit. So development happens along transit corridors. That's why we have density of housing on transit. So demonstrating where arts and culture intersects with transit becomes important as we find pathways out of poverty, because access to affordable transit helps people find pathways out of poverty. So we want to showcase that so policymakers see that nexus. Next, we have demographics, because as we commit ourselves to advancing racial equity, we need to know who is accessing arts and culture and whether we're advancing racial equity in that work. So this is really important. It's tied to census tract data, and it's helping us better understand who lives in the city where, and where arts and culture assets are and are not, so we can help rectify the inequities that exist in the city. And then finally, we wanted to represent cultural districts and land use policy because zoning, things like production, distribution, repair are very critical as developers look to do community benefits for affordable arts space. So when developers want to do something, we want them to be aware of their zoning potential to include arts and culture in a new development. And so many of you in this room have fought bad development to ensure that arts and culture, people who fought the demolition of cell space, everybody who is organized in this room, it is incredible. We are being looked to around the country for the organizing principles of all of you in this room. We are getting more community benefit and new development than any city in the country right now for arts and culture. It doesn't feel like that every day, but we are, and there are so many incredible new spaces, so thank you. But this will help us see geographically where cultural districts are legislated. Those of you that are working in those districts, we hope you can use this to know your neighbors better. Speaking of cultural districts, I'm so excited by the work that is happening by so many of our cultural district organizers. We now have 6 legislated cultural districts. They are Japantown, Compton's Cafeteria Transgender Cultural District, which Honey will tell you a bit more about. Soan Pilipinas, who has just had a couple of amazing grant awards awarded to you, so congratulations. Calle 24 Latino Cultural District, the San Francisco LGBTQ Leather District, and most recently introduced a Bayview Cultural District. So here you see snapshots, next slide, you can see the snapshots of who are the cultural districts. These are geographically legislated zones and spaces that have different tied legislation. They're all unique. They all set their own outcomes. Supervisor Hillary Ronen is working on a draft ordinance to define that process and how people can develop cultural districts. And the new hotel tax restoration has $3 million as a baseline dedicated to resourcing the work within those districts. Those aren't the only resources we hope to see for cultural districts, but it'll be a baseline of ongoing funding to work not just in arts and culture, but in economic development, in zoning, so that we keep small business spaces protected. We don't let large restaurants come in and merge 2 parcels, which is a great model within the Calle 24 Latino Cultural District. So, great work that everybody has developed. And then I want to also just acknowledge the California Arts Council has also designated local arts agencies as partners in helping recognize and honor local cultural districts. And California Arts Council selected both Calle 24 Latino Cultural District and Soan Pilipinas to participate in their 2-year pilot program with other cultural districts around the state. Modest little $5,000 stipend, but we're really helping lead the state in what cultural districts mean and are becoming. I know I'm running short on time, so I'm gonna breeze through some work. Lex has mentioned some of our nonprofit affordability work. Thanks to Supervisor John Avalos, we had a $2 million allocation for the Nonprofit Displacement Mitigation Fund, not a sexy name. But we were able to provide $1.357 million in financial assistance to 21 arts nonprofits in the city, and we've provided both technical and financial assistance to a total of 36 arts and culture nonprofits, all listed here. Such an incredible list of organizations and such a great use of resources. And this effort led to what Lex is helping lead at OEWD, the Nonprofit Sustainability Initiative. So those grants are ongoing. It also led to the founding of Lex's position as the Nonprofit Business Liaison, which is the first time San Francisco has a dedicated City Hall position to advancing the health of the nonprofit sector. It is one of the largest employers in the city. It has always, in my opinion, been an undervalued part of the ecology of our local businesses, but it is critical to employment in the city, to advancing racial equity, to our social services, and to arts and culture. And what's exciting is we are working in arts and culture with our colleagues in social services and public health in ways we never have before, thanks to Lex's leadership and my colleague Brian Chu at the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. So a number of you in the room have received some initial $75,000 grants for real estate work, and it also there's an acquisition fund of grants up to $1 million, right Lex? So $1 million for acquisition of new space that would be permanently affordable, and arts and culture is a qualified use, so please keep an eye out for those annual, well actually I think we're kind of on a cycle of maybe 2 or twice a year. But Lex has that information as those come forward, and thank you to the Northern California Community Loan Fund for their partnership. So with that, it is my proud pleasure to introduce my colleague across the Bay. He's more than a colleague. He's been a friend and mentor nationally through the U.S. Urban Arts Federation when he was in Tucson. So to get to have the honor to have him here in the Bay Area and get to work with him more closely, it's my great pleasure to introduce my good friend and colleague, Roberto Bedoya.
Ernesto, I'm going to confuse you because I don't know what the hell I'm going to be doing. I bought a PowerPoint and then I thought to myself, oh, I'll just talk and read something I wrote up. And now I'm thinking after my colleague's presentation, maybe I'll just go straight to the PowerPoint. But, but I do want to talk about the cultural plan that we just finished and it's been out there and circulating in the community for feedback. So far it's been pretty well received. I'm just going to lean into what this plan is about a little bit, and then I'll talk about it, and then I'll go like this whenever I feel like it. So it's called Belonging in Oakland, a Cultural Development Plan. And to sort of echo a little bit what Tom talked a lot about sort of in our community meetings with many, we had many. We would hear from community members that the greatest anxiety that they have is this feeling of displacement. And when we went deep into the neighborhoods, more this idea of losing neighborhood identity. So there was less a conversation about our grant making, our public art, about arts and arts organization. It was really more about culture. So we decided to lean into culture, into the ways of which a city kind of gives voice to its artistic soul. So in some ways, this culture plan is really about trying to create a kind of behavior shift within government and within our community about how to support the ways of expression that kind of animate Oakland and civic life. So that was really an interesting pivot. The last time the city of Oakland did a culture plan was 30 years ago. I joked with Tom, I just want to be a cultural district. Come on, I'm Oakland, I'm big. Can't you just adopt me? Because my budget is so small. I'm really an anemic local arts agency. I give out about $1.3 million a year and about the same amount in public art. We're not a robust, big machine. However, I love Oakland. And I grew up in the East Bay, and so the poet, earlier you were talking about sort of, I'm trying to remember your line, but anyway, I just reflected upon the fact that a little storytelling. I had to go to a meeting last week, and it was about DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion. I thought, oh shit. Excuse me. About like I just had this bristling sort of response to that language, just because I know how technocratic it can get. So it was my turn to speak. And then I said, well, here's my story. My mama lived to 95. I grew up in this little barrio called Decoto, which is part of Union City in the South Bay. So I'm really South Bay and East Bay. More than I am the city, though I lived here for many years. And Mom was living with my sister in San Ramon, and I went to visit one time, and we were chatting, and I said, I gotta go. She was bedridden at that time. So I walked down the hall, and she said, mijito, mijito. And I came back and I said, what? She goes, I know why you're so social. And I said, okay. You know, it's like, she goes, well, I was trying to register all the Mexican Americans in Decoto to vote, so you've been to 100 doors before you were even born. So that's DEI. DEI. You know what I mean? It begins there. It begins in the body. And like how you sort of, and in your soul, and in your spirit. So in some ways, I just needed to tell that story, because in some ways, the story of the East Bay and the story of the Bay Area is really rich, and Tom is very correct in saying that we are a model for a lot of forward thinking. So I just want to talk a little bit. Let's go to, that's, not this, skip this one. So this, no, stay here. So this plan has two sort of prongs. This first phase, this is really about trying to make an argument and to do the behavior shift that I think is really important for us to sort of do the long-term investment in our community. And we're really foregrounding cultural equity as kind of the central value. Keep going. Wait, let's back up. My office is on the 9th floor, and I look out that window, and I see the plaza every day, and I hear the protests every day. And it's usually every day, too. And so it's a beautiful part. Okay, I'll tell another story. One of the takeaways from my city is that it really loves its advocacy history. It is a home of Black Panthers. It is really adamant. So I was talking to a group of people. It's the home of the clenched fist, and it's very proud. And then there's that other thing. There's me, I'm cultural affairs, and I have to do the arm wrestling. We have to do the arm wrestling. And then there's the handshake. So for my activist friends, they don't understand that there's this, the arm wrestling, and then there's the handshaking. But I need to tell them, I need that win. That win is really important, because I'm just one dude with a little bit of muscle. Not a whole lot. I got a lot of will, but not a whole lot of muscle. So anyway, that, the clenched fist, the arm wrestling, and the handshake are really part of kind of moving the dial. Keep going. So So we had all this, we interviewed many people, we had a series of 14 various meetings throughout the community. We're in this place right now. On Friday, people have the opportunity to give us feedback on, and we're getting some really good advice. Then we'll go to mayor and council in June, hopefully for they'll adopt. Keep going. One more, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. So I just want to stop here for a moment. And that these were sort of the guiding values that informed us. Equity is the driving force, culture is the frame, belonging is the goal, and working across government. So now I'm going to read from my introduction, and then I'm going to stop there. The tagline for how am I doing with time? 3 minutes? Oh shit. Okay, let's stop. No, I'll read this part. I think often about how imagination and policy influence each other, whether it's culture or public policy, or the imagination of the individual or the group. As a cultural affairs manager, my work with artists, community leaders, and elected officials engages me with the entanglements of will at play in civil society. Public will, poetic will, and political will, who functions as the wind behind the actions of policy making and imagination. Given that policy aims to fix via management and guidelines and rules, and culture is fluid as it develops new knowledge and it brings into life, how do you work with these forces? Something that's fixed and something that's fluid. And you just need to be mindful of that as you kind of move ahead. We know that policy follows meaning. And what the plan has revealed that is that Oaklanders have deep meaning, find deep meaning in being able to live in an equitable society. Living in an ethically just and aesthetically diverse and rich city is a democratic charge we must address. To that end, the plan's orientation toward equity in culture leads an action agenda that entails a behavior shift. One that sees cultural affairs embrace of connectedness and intersectionality as key to realizing belonging. The future work of the cultural affairs, as presented in the document, is to serve the civic narrative of belonging in all its beauty, temperaments, and complexities. So I'd like to end with sort of the homework assignment. I want all of you guys, not only to vote for Lex, but also to contact all your elected officials and be really earnest and very upfront and say, what is your belonging strategy? There's a housing strategy, there's a workforce development strategy, there's a transportation strategy. Just get that notion into their head. What is your belonging strategy? And if they really thought about it, it's cultural affairs, it's usually libraries, and it's parks and recs. Those are the things that make people feel that they belong to a locale. But you guys need to sort of be that voice of asking for belonging or asking for a strategy support. So I'll end there. Thank you. And I'll introduce Honey Mahogany. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Honey Mahogany. I'm also very tall, so I think I'm gonna take the mic and hold it. I'm honored to be here today. So I am a native San Franciscan, grew up here in San Francisco. I'm also, I know we're not unicorns, we do exist, we are real. I also am a social worker, and I'm also a drag queen. Some of you may know me from a TV show called RuPaul's Drag Race. By the way, if any of you are looking for something to do after this event, I am hosting a RuPaul's Drag Race viewing party tonight at 8 p.m., so I better hurry up and don't get in face. But before I do that, I do want to tell you a little bit about the work that I've been doing. I actually wanted to say that some of you may actually know me from before RuPaul's Drag Race. I have been a drag queen here in San Francisco for a very long time. You may have seen me at shows like Cocktailgate, which was at Truck. Anyone remember that party? A few of you. Or more recently, maybe something like Something at the Stud. I also hosted a show called Mahogany Mondays at the Midnight Sun for 5 years. And currently I host Black Fridays at the Stud every 4th Friday. But as a drag queen, I consider myself lucky because I got to participate in the sort of artistic fabric of San Francisco in a really unique way, which is through nightlife. But I also got to see part of, I guess, the most vulnerable parts of San Francisco's population, specifically queer communities of color, and also specifically people engaged in nightlife. How many of them were really pushed out of San Francisco? Especially, I think about 3 years ago is when I really saw this mass exodus of all these wonderful, beautiful, creative artists, you know, freaks and sissies and trans people and people of color, all moving to places like Los Angeles or Austin or New Orleans because they could no longer afford to live in San Francisco. And when it really, I think, started hitting home was when those bars started closing, right? The queer bars like Truck is gone. Bars like Esta Noche, the Lexington, most recently the Gangway, and so many more. And when they came for the Stud, I think that's when I really started to panic. You know, growing up in San Francisco, the Stud was right on the corner of 9th and Harrison. It had this amazing, huge gay flag flying, and every time I would get off that freeway to head towards Civic Center, I would see the Stud, and I always wondered what it would be like in there. And so, as an adult, and when I first started doing drag and I got introduced to the Stud, it was kind of amazing to find myself at home. This place that I had identified as a child and seen and always wondered about, to finally enter that space and connect with the people there and find a second family was absolutely amazing. And the amount of art that the Stud has produced and so many of the nightlife spaces throughout San Francisco, specifically in the queer community, have produced, I think is incredible and also has really truly made San Francisco the city that it is today. So when about a year ago the stud was in danger of closing and Michael was announcing that he was moving back to Hawaii and the rent was about to triple, many of us were panicked, but 18 of us got together as individuals and decided that we were not going to let another queer space in San Francisco close, and that we were not going to continue to allow to see our spaces, our homes, our playgrounds, and the places where we met many of our queer families to be erased and to be destroyed, and our cultures to be basically driven out of San Francisco. We got together and we created a collective, which we called the Stud Collective, and we saved the bar. It is now owned by 18 queer individuals. And what I really, we were able to negotiate a 2-year lease, which is just about to expire, FYI, so we are on the hunt for a new space. But the business we are determined to keep the Stud open for another 50 years, even if it's at another location. What I really loved about the experience was the amount of passion that people had for this project. I mean, we literally sat for hours upon hours, 3 or 4 nights a week, thinking about how we were going to get the money together, what kind of systems were going to be in place, and I think maybe even most importantly, what kind of bar did we want this to be moving forward. And one of the things that we really took into consideration was diversity. We really wanted, we knew that there were no more lesbian bars left in San Francisco, and we really wanted to make sure that the Stud had a strong women's representation, not just in the parties that we throw, but also the people that were owners in the Stud, that there were people of color that were involved, that there were trans people involved, and so we did that. We made sure that our membership reflected the diversity that we wanted to see in our bar. And I'm just really, really proud of that accomplishment, and also I see that the Stud was actually my introduction into political advocacy within the city of San Francisco, which eventually led me to getting involved in the Compton's Transgender Cultural District. Bars are not the only establishments in San Francisco that are affected by the raging gentrification that is sweeping through the city. All types of family businesses, all types of people who have lived here all their lives, especially queer people and people of color, are being pushed out. And the Tenderloin specifically is really one of the oldest identified gay neighborhoods in the country, and is also the home of the Compton's Cafeteria and Compton's Cafeteria Right, which is the first collective uprising of LGBT people that led to the Gay Liberation Front. It is also one of the places in San Francisco that has the highest concentration of trans individuals, and that goes back decades. And it's probably actually the highest concentration of trans individuals anywhere in the country. And these trans men and women are being displaced from this place where they have felt safe, this place that they have contributed to and created and called home for so long, and they're leaving these communities and being pushed further and further out into the East Bay, and again moving out of state and losing all their family connections, all the services that they were able to access, and we know that those lead to really terrible outcomes for our community. So we knew that we had to take action and put a stop to this continuing displacement. So additionally, a lot of the developments that were moving into San Francisco were tearing down a lot of our queer spaces to build new fancy condos. And while we understand that development needs to happen, it's a part of a city growing and helping to solve our housing crisis, we also want to make sure that we are addressing the fact that a lot of these historical spaces exist and not forgetting the queer histories of our neighborhoods in San Francisco. And also, while these places may be building new housing, to not let that new housing completely push out those people who could not afford to live in these fancy new condos, to make sure that affordable housing is also being built in San Francisco, the place that it is today, that we not only honor their history, that we also provide opportunities for economic empowerment, that we provide opportunities for people to start their own businesses, for people in the neighborhoods to be hired and to take advantage of the jobs that are created by these new developments. And you know, maybe most relevant to the people here, that the art that is produced by these communities is celebrated, honored, and that artists are given the opportunity to express themselves, to participate in all of this new money that is coming into San Francisco, and basically are able to stay in a city that they call home and feel like they are actually a part of creating that positive change and not just being pushed out by it. So that's what we're doing here in San Francisco with the cultural districts, and I hope you learned something from my ramblings. I am going to cut it short because I think we are a little bit over time, but I do want to introduce somebody who is going to do the breakout sessions. I believe it's Alex Randall, is that right? So I'd like to introduce Alex Randall.
Hey everybody, as Honey said, my name is Alex Ryan Randall. I work at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. I've been on the planning committee for this event, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about how the breakout sessions that we're about to move into are going to work. So we've got 6 different sessions, and they're each going to happen twice, which means you'll have an opportunity to go to 2 different sessions, one for the first part and then the second for the second part. We're going to have 4 of them take place in the gallery hall where all the neon work is. There are 4 circles of chairs and benches. One of each is going to be dedicated to a particular session. One of them is going to stay in here, and then there's going to be one in a room down a hallway off of the main gallery space. I'll run through where each of those sessions are going to be in just a moment. A couple other things I want to add. We're such a large crowd today, which is awesome. We may not have seating at each of the breakout sessions for everyone who wants to participate in each one. So we just ask that you work together to make sure that the seating goes to the people who need it the most, all right? We are going to have note takers at each of these sessions, so if you're worried that you're not going to be able to get to all the sessions you want to go to, don't worry about it. We're going to send out notes and resources in the weeks to come from all of these sessions. Also, these sessions are going to feel pretty fast. We've got about 30 minutes for each one of them. And so we invite you to consider this as an opportunity to start conversations about these topics and to find out who else here you can continue to have those conversations with, both at our social hour and beyond this event. So before we break, I want to take a moment to introduce to you our amazing facilitators for each of these sessions. And I'd like to ask you to hold your applause till I get through the whole list. And after we applaud, we can get up and move to those various sessions. So the first session we're going to have is Influencing City Policy, which is going to be led by Tony Kelly, who's a District 10 supervisor candidate. Tony, can you raise your hand? You're over there. Also, Jean Johnstone and Jessa Brie Moreno from the Teaching Artists Guild. Jean's right there, and Jess is right up there. Great, and they will be in this room. So if you're interested in going to that session first, stay right here. Second session is Equity in the Arts, led by Vinay Patel, the Executive Director of the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center. Vinay is way in the back. His session is going to be at the circle closest to the registration desk out in the hallway. We've got one on housing resources, which is going to be led by Carolyn Fang from Meta, who may already be out in the hallway, and also Jim Brown from the Tannery Art Center in Santa Cruz. Jim, are you in the room? Right there. Great. So they will be at the second set of chairs and benches away from the registration desk in the hallway. We've got one on professional development resources, which Amy Queskin from Art Sightful is going to be leading. Amy, are you in the room right now? She's probably in that room setting up, so she's going to be in the room that's down the hallway off of the gallery. So if you walk down the gallery, you'll see on the right, there's going to be an open door, walk down that hallway, and you'll be in Amy's session. There's one on local arts advocacy led by Catherine Canton from EAP, and also Rachel Lastimosa from Soma Filipinas. I think Rachel's right there and Catherine's right behind her. They're going to be third down the hallway from the registration desk. And then finally we're going to have a session on fiscal resources led by Ann Wong from World Arts West, Lisa Berger from Independent Arts and Media, and Randy Rollison from Intersection for the Arts. If y'all are in the room, you raise your hand. Great. So they will be the ones furthest down the hallway. So with that, let's give a big round of applause to all of our facilitators. And let's go to, thank you.
All right. Did everybody really enjoy your breakout sessions? Did you learn something new? Did you meet new folks? Are you excited to get further involved in arts advocacy within your community? Hearing a lot of yeses. That's great.
And just out of curiosity, how many people have been to an ABBA event before, or heard of ABBA before this event? And how many people are completely new to ABBA? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We're really, really excited to have you part of this community. So as we all come together, it seems like most of us have filtered in. Before we begin the final portion of the evening, which is our Arts Enabler Award ceremony, we want to take a moment to acknowledge and remember the co-founder of ABBA, who sadly is not with us today. She was a woman who was a tireless advocate for the arts, a true arts enabler and activist, and a dear friend to many of us in this room, who many of us had shared time with, and without whom we would not be in this room together today. So please take a moment of silence for Ebony McKinney.
I feel like Ebony's spirit is really with us today, and it's definitely interwoven with all of the Arts Enabler awardees that we're going to be presenting tonight. Just a little background on kind of the process of this event, and specifically the awards component. Everything about this event has really kind of been a beautiful experiment. It's been a scrappy crew of people that have come together to facilitate this kind of event and really kind of bring people together around arts advocacy.
Exactly, and when we were coming up with the ideas for this event, we really asked ourselves, who isn't in the room? How do we invite them in? How do we make space for them to stay in the room, to feel welcome? Invite the voices of all of the community members that don't come to breakout sessions or keynote sessions. And most importantly, how do we create space within this event to celebrate people and the work that they do, to create joy and celebrate all of the invisible threads that go into our arts community.
Absolutely. So folks on the committee sent out call for nominations to our inner circle, and then we did a wider call out to all of our community. If you're standing over here and you want to sit down, if you're not in a wordy, come and sit down if you like, there's plenty of room. And we got back an amazing group of extremely diverse people in relation to gender identity and race, geography, artistic medium. And it's overlapping mediums as well, that a lot of people that you're going to be seeing us honor tonight really doing intersectional work within our communities.
Absolutely, and so while at first we thought let's do categories, in the end we realized that there's no category for an arts worker, there's no category for a culture worker. We all do the work of many people wearing many hats, and we are all arts enablers in ourselves. So without further ado, oh wait, one thing that we should say.
One more ado.
One more ado is that some of these people you may recognize, you may know well, and some of these people may be completely off the radar. And that was intentional. We wanted to really pick people that would not otherwise be recognized in a room like this. And we hope that you will get to know them, and we hope that you will hear their stories. And after this event, ABBA will be featuring more information about the work that these people do, so you can get to know more about them. And now, without further ado.
We're going to give kind of a brief overview of each awardee and then allow them a very brief moment to kind of speak with their own words and tell you about their impact. Following this event, we'll be posting more in-depth information about each awardee, but we just wanted to keep our time here brief and really give them a moment to speak about their work in their own words.
All right, so here we go. Our first Art Enabler awardee is Tracy Camp. Tracy is an Oakland-based actor and tenured mathematics instructor at Laney College in Oakland. Although her performative work centers in musical theater, she sees her work in advocating for equity in theater as an urgent matter of life and death for herself, her son, and all people who suffer injustice due to implicit bias. Please welcome Tracy.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be recognized for this work. The work is incredibly isolating and heartbreaking, and so it's just wonderful to be recognized by the community for this. I staged a protest against a theater company that was performing a racist and misogynistic play that it portrayed a woman, well actually a girl, sorry, a 14-year-old girl who was being raped as enjoying her rape. It was heartbreaking. I stood in front of the theater for 8 shows a week, passing out flyers in order to break the bias that, the type of bias, the unconscious bias that forms in people's minds as we watch entertainment and media. And I really want to thank my husband, Daniel Olson, who there were some nights that I couldn't bear to be outside the theater. Just emotionally, it was really difficult. And so I thank my husband, Daniel Olson. Some nights, the nights that I couldn't go, he would go, sometimes by himself. He always came with me when I went. I also thank my son. He's why I do this work, my 15-year-old Black American son. I fear, he's over there. I constantly fear for his life because of the implicit bias that people hold. So I do this work for him, and he's following in my footsteps. Soon after the protest against this theater company, my son was in his own show. He's starting to act, and he told the director, he very, very kindly explained to the director of this show that since he was the only Black person in the cast, he simply could not play the villain because he couldn't represent
Thank you, Tracy. Please give it up for Tracy Camp.
Our next awardee is someone who I've worked with in the past, and I'm so happy to honor her tonight. Michelle Holt is founding executive director for Arts Ed Matter and has 20 years of experience in working as an arts educator. Her work as an arts integration specialist and theater educator to advance equity and access to for creative expression for all Bay Area youth exemplifies commitment in arts education. Please give it up for Michelle.
Thank you so much. I'm just so thrilled and honored to receive this award. I've been working in the field of arts education for 30 years, 20 years here in the Bay Area. 7 years ago, I founded Arts Ed Matters to advocate for a stronger presence of the visual and performing arts in public schools. I invite all of you to check out our film. It's called Arts is the Root. It's a 12-minute advocacy piece designed as a statewide tool to educate people as to how the arts have historically been cut from schools since Prop 13 in 1978 and what you can do to support and bring them back. I would not be able to do this work without a whole bunch of other people that are in this room tonight and also who are not here tonight. My work is about collaboration. My work is about community. And I couldn't do it without so many of my colleagues and friends, people that I sit on boards with, people who sit on the boards of Arts Ed Matters, people that I plan curriculum with that help me reach out to teachers. And so I'm just so thrilled and honored. I'm literally on my knees grateful every morning that I get paid for doing what I love. And of course I'm going to thank my 3 beautiful children, even though they're not here tonight, because my 14-year-old is actually performing in a play tonight. I had to break her heart and say, Mommy's receiving an award. I went to the dress rehearsal last night. So thank you so much. I'm so honored.
Our next awardee is
Development Director for World Arts West and the former Executive Director of the Oakland Asian Cultural Center. Her deep commitment to empowering immigrant artists and marginalized communities has helped a multitude of culturally specific artists and arts organizations to access funding and share their unique traditional art forms with the world. Please welcome Anne Wong.
Thank you. I'm so honored and humbled to be here tonight, to be receiving this amazing award in a heritage category. Because my arts advocacy, my cultural work really was driven by my own immigrant experience. I'm an immigrant from Taiwan. We left during the days of martial law, and also my family's journey to escape political persecution, and how art really changed my life as a young immigrant. Those three things really drove me to dedicate my life to the arts today. Today, I'm so thrilled to be working with World Arts West, producers of the San Francisco Ethnic Dance Festival. 40 years ago, we started as we were started by Grants for the Arts as the first city-sponsored multicultural dance festival in the United States. Yes. And, kudos to Grants for the Arts. It was a very overt political act. I'm very, very proud that 40 years ago we started in the small cultural centers around San Francisco. I'm also very, very proud that this year, as we celebrate our 40th birthday, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary in the War Memorial Opera House. So it's a World Cultural Equity moment for the 450 dance companies that we support. I want to dedicate this award to those 450 dance companies that we supported over the years, and the countless cultural artists, all local artists who represent cultures from around the world. To me, this is what peace and harmony looks like. So, thank you all for being here, and I'm just so honored to receive this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Our next awardee is a multidisciplinary artist and consultant with over 20 years of philanthropic, curatorial, and administrative experience. Her work supporting and promoting artists of color and queer artists has led her to become a voice for equity among national organizations and has allowed her to advance racial equity and LGBTQ visibility nationally. As one of the Association for Performing Arts Professionals 2019 conference co-chairs, she will continue her mission of equity and representation for marginalized communities. Please welcome Beatrice Thomas.
Thank you. That was a really great introduction. I really appreciate it. I do work nationally to promote the amazing queer, trans, and artists of color out there, because I believe that every person on this planet deserves to see themselves on stage. And I mean, there is incredible art that is happening, but outside of the dominant paradigm. And I want to see that because I think it changes the lives of people, it changes the lives of our children, and I just think it's just this like great workaround. It's like show, don't tell, get it on the stages. I think it will change people's hearts and minds. There's a reason that I do this, and the reason is, and I want you to do it with me, is I want you to close your eyes. I'm a little nervous if this is good. But I want you to think about a world where we can be born into our gifts and talents, recognized for our gifts and talents, despite the things that make us different, but celebrated for the things that make us different. A world that gratifies us with the finance and support to share our creative gifts with the world in all of our fabulous stripes and colors. I want you to imagine that world. I want you to take a deep breath in, like drink that shit in, okay? We're gonna do this together. And release. So it is for the hope of our collective breathing, our collective life, the fact that we have to be on this planet, drinking in this air together, sharing our cultural differences, sharing our cultural similarities. It is for that collective breath that I will do all of this work, and I will die doing this work so I can just, that little black girl inside of me, right, can like see a world where she could be somebody on stage. I wanted to be an actor, and I stopped myself, and I just want all of the children inside of us to feel free to dream big and know that it's possible. Thank you.
Our next awardee is actually an organization. Peacock Rebellion is an Oakland-based, trans, femme of color-centered crew that uses art to build cultures of safety and healing in queer and trans communities of color. Best known for their Trans People of Color Comedy Festival, Brouhaha, their work as an anchor organization of hashtag Liberate 23rd Ave has established a longtime QTPOC block in East Oakland as a land trust for affordable housing and community space for the next 100 years. Please welcome Lexi Adsit and Debbie Peacock.
Thank you. What's up, San Francisco? Make some noise if you're single. That got you a little louder. So hi, my name's Lexi Adsit. I'm the managing director of Peacock Rebellion. This is Debbie, our wonderful artistic and executive director, and Catherine, part of our artistic core. And over the past, we've been around, this is our 6th year in existence, but really over the past year and a half, since the election, we've been hustling, and we've been hustling hard. Not just for the trans women of color and trans femmes of color that we serve directly and work with directly, but for the community at large. So we ran a training program for trans folks to learn peer advocacy skills. We provide free, high-quality artistic training to queer and trans people of color. And most importantly, recently in November, as a part of a collective of additional storefront owners and residents in affordable housing, we bought our building in East Oakland. And the building's remaining in a trust, so it's not just secured for the next 5 years, it's secured for the next 99 years. Yeah, so check us out on Facebook or peacockrebellion.org. Thank you.
Give it up for Peacock Rebellion.
Our next awardee is a nationally touring poet, published author, arts educator, and the artistic director of Kearney Street Workshop. He's an MFA graduate from St. Mary's College, founding member of the Filipino-American Spoken Word Troupe, and received a Kundiman Fellowship for his work in Asian American literature. Rather than believing that art saves, Jason believes that it gives us the ability to see, free of constraint, and therein is a means by which we can build towards liberation. You'll probably recognize him. Please welcome Jason Bayani.
Thank you. I wasn't sure what I was going to say. You know, when working for Kearney Street Workshop for me has been probably one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. I remember when I was in undergrad in college and I was first starting to take creative writing classes. I was feeling a little bit lost in my program, and I met a professor by the name of Jaime Cinto, the first Filipino writer I had ever met. And it gave me a sense of like that you know, to read his work, to see someone talking about the things that made sense to me, that I could understand. And you know, he was published by Kearney Street Workshop. And you know, to be able to kind of like come back years later, and to be able to create the kind of spaces that for me, when I was coming up as a poet, sustained me and kept me going. Things like the Asian Pacific, back in 2001, I attended the first ever Asian American Spoken Word and Poetry Summit, and gathered a bunch of Asian American poets from across the country, and we all came together. And just to be in that space after being in other spaces for so long helped me continue, helped me grow. And to be able to do that now with Curtis Street Workshop, to provide space, to provide opportunities, and a place for other Asian American artists to go to feel like they got a place that's home, where they don't have to justify their work, where they don't have to explain, where everyone here just knows. And that's what we want to continue building upon over there at Curtis Street Workshop. So thank you.
Powerful stuff tonight. Our next awardee is a dancer, musician, author, teacher, and founding artistic director of the Mahea Uchiyama Center for International Dance in Berkeley, California, and one of the artistic directors of the San Francisco Ethnic Dance Festival. As a child growing up at the height of the civil rights movement of the 1960s, the arts grounded Mahea, giving her structure, purpose, and hope. She couldn't be with us tonight, but accepting on her behalf is her colleague and senior student, Sonia Pina. Let's give it up for Mahealani Uchiyama.
Well, hello everyone. I have the pleasure of representing Mahealani Uchiyama. She, as mentioned before, is not only someone that I work with at World Arts West or the Ethnic Dance Festival, but I'm her student, I'm her haumana, and as I reflected on what an arts enabler is, I really thought about that's the reason that I'm here representing her. If it weren't for her advocacy in learning respectfully what art is and what dance is, I wouldn't be here. The fact that she performs, composes music, and dances in a different language, culture that she wasn't born in, but fell in love with, is amazing. And the fact that she has been in the Bay Area now for 35 years, and later this year, in September, will be the 25th anniversary of the Mahea Uchiyama Center for International Dance, is quite an accomplishment. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for being here.
Our next awardee is a transgender trickster, celebrated for her striking lyric-based songs, and was one of the US's first openly transgender women to perform and tour nationally. Continuing her legacy as a pioneer, Shauna Virago is also the artistic director of the San Francisco Transgender Film Festival, which promotes transgender and gender-variant visibility, culture, and community through its quality films, and is the first festival of its kind in North America. Please welcome Shauna Virago.
Hello, how are y'all doing? We're still here, do you believe it? Despite Mark Zuckerberg stealing all of our identities. See, when you're white and rich and you steal 80 million people's identities, Congress says, you know what? You're growing up. That's the message. So, I'm here to represent the San Francisco Transgender Film Festival. I've been the artistic director since 2003. We started in 1997. I want to give some love out to the folks who actually started the festival, and I was there with them in the first day of the first festival. But Christopher Lee and Alex Austin. Alex is still amongst the living, but is not here tonight. Christopher passed on a few years ago, and really from I think the complications, the intersections of kind of suffering and oppression that happen when you don't have a lot of money and you have mental health and you're trans, and a person of color. So, but he was a visionary, and I'm sure he knows that I still love him a lot. But when we started, and to this day, our mission has really been to prioritize films that challenge power. Challenge the power of representation that say trans bodies aren't beautiful. Challenge the prison industrial complex, that too many of our trans brothers and sisters are wrongly incarcerated. Challenge police abuse. Challenge class issues. And we have a lot of fun doing that, which y'all know that. But, so Hollywood and trying to assimilate, we weren't here to assimilate our gender expression, we weren't here to assimilate our vision on what art can look like, what cinema can be. So it's been interesting because there's this trans moment that maybe some of you have heard about nationally, but it's really what I would call a cisgender moment. So cisgender people have learned about trans people and trans bodies, but we're still hiring non-trans actors to win Oscars and Emmy Awards, right, in Hollywood. So we're not here to be the biggest film festival in the world, but we're here to, speak truth to power, and that's our mission, and we're going to keep doing it. So thank you.
I'd like to welcome Rob Reddy and Duncan Wold. They're the leadership behind Piano Fight. Established in 2007, Piano Fight is a community-driven indie arts venue that takes pride in partnering with local artists to make great shows, mouthwatering eats, and delicious cocktails to create a uniquely San Francisco experience. Stitching together formal theater audiences and nightlife communities, Piano Fight provides space and infrastructure to hundreds of artists who create and stage 1,500 performances and attract over 50,000 audience members each year. Please welcome Piano Fight.
Thank you, everybody, for having us. Thank you, Rob, for holding that. We're Piano Fight. To answer your first question, we don't really do dueling pianos, but we do have 2 theaters, and we have a restaurant bar that has a cabaret stage, and like they said, we host a ton of performances, all types. We're super proud of our very eclectic mix of artists that are there. Also, this has just been really cool to be here. Everybody here, I mean, the other awardees are all so awesome. And everybody here, and I see some people that I know, but I do see a lot of people that I don't know yet. So my name's Duncan, and I'd love if you come and found me after this and said hello. I'd like to meet all of you.
Just to echo that, it feels very awesome to stand up here with everybody who's just come up. Very, very cool. We started the company about 10 years ago to basically have a vehicle to do our own stuff, and then kind of realized, other people might want to do that too. And in that process, it's grown from 2 or 3 man producing team doing fart jokes to a big 3-stage venue in the Tenderloin, and it's a real joy to kind of go down to the Tenderloin every day and do the work that we do. And it feels really awesome to be up here. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Our next awardee is a practicing artist and the program director for ArtSpan. Valuing art and creative connections as essential elements of community, personal enrichment, and education, Allison came to San Francisco in 2009 and believes that supporting artists and their creative practice is one of the most rewarding and inspiring experiences possible. She is a true powerhouse. Please welcome Allison.
In the album that really, didn't go anywhere, but we made a big statement. The statement we made is people that look like me can be on the stage and record and perform in big venues like Bill Graham, Winterland, Fillmore, and we can do that. The ukulele stands for the music of Polynesia that I love to do and teach at the dance studio. And the black pearl comes from Tahiti, which represents the music going across the ocean. So as a musician, like I said, I love fusing the music, exploring. It gives me hope. It gives me satisfaction that I can do this kind of stuff. And also, I'm grateful for being awarded for. I never get an award for anything. But anyway, that's who I am. I love what I'm doing, and thank you so much for recognizing people that do this and love what they do.
Before we call up our final awardee, I would love to take a moment for any founding directors or founding members of organizations to just stand up and show yourselves. I know there's a lot of you out there, folks that have founded organizations, founded festivals. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to keep those organizations going. Our final awardee is in a legacy category. This person is a co-founder and artistic director of Dance Brigade and Dance Mission Theater. As a dancer and community builder, Chrissy Kiefer founded the nationally touring Wallflower Order Dance Collective in 1975 as a response to white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. Thank you, Bell Hooks, for coining that term. Centering strong, athletic women working as a collective. She then founded Dance Brigade with Nina Victor to create multiracial feminist dance and establish Dance Mission as a thriving dance complex with studios and a theater. Chrissy's vast contributions to the Bay Area arts ecology have engaged and empowered countless women, queer, racially mixed, and culturally specific ensembles to share their talents with the world. Please join me in welcoming Chrissy Kiefer.
Thank you. I have to say, when I got this in the mail, I was like, arts enabler. I know I'm codependent, but how did you know? I have to say, it was kind of shocking. You know, I've been at this a super long time, like since I was 22, so 40 years I've been doing this, and sometimes it amazes me that we all get together in these rooms because we have been forced to be in such a competitive environment at times, working so hard to go after the same grants, and we still hold each other and love each other and remain friends and colleagues and support, and that to me is amazing. Just being here today, I've really felt like there are some amazing souls in this room, and I super appreciate all the work that you do to keep me going, and I hope that you feel the same about the work that I've done. So, great. Thank you, Chrissy.
Can we have one more round of applause for all of the honorees tonight? To our wonderful interpreters tonight. And since we've got the applause going, we'd like to now call all of the committee members up that helped organize this event. That's Susie and Alex and Patrick and Kelsey and Kathy and Joan. Arts enablers behind just today, and I want you all to take a good look at this stage because you're going to be up here next year, either as an awardee or hopefully as a volunteer and as an organizer on this committee or in many different actions that ABBA is going to be putting together in the future. We are all arts enablers in this room, and we're really, really strong when we work together. So we just want to acknowledge everyone in the room and the people up on the stage. We're going to enjoy the midway with live music from Pangea FC. So thank you for coming here. Are we forgetting anything? Because they're still sitting down.
I think we've still got some food, right?
Yeah. There's some food. Yum. And you know what? Art is not a passive act. It is action. We all have to do our part. So find a committee, come to our meetings, do things. All of you. Okay.